Okay,
Oh,
recording.
okay.
We should start recording, but I'm recording now. We spent a few minutes talking about the post-webinar on September 22nd, where we're going to introduce the bulk of what we're going to talk about is explicit instruction and introduction of the lesson plan template. So we're now going to start talking about the webinar for the number of meetings and then run through the agenda for those face-to-face regional trainings. So, Marion, did you want to wait for Marcella, or do we
No, we
go
don't
ahead?
have to wait for her.
Okay.
I'm just fixing my lesson plan, my outline for the webinar on the 22nd. Okay. So let me get back to my document. Okay, so about this a little bit. Now we have to change this pre-webinar because there was a focus on lesson planning, and we're doing that in September. So I'll need to think about this a little bit more. Part of the webinar is going to be the debrief of how is everything going, and maybe one of the things that they was more about the coaching. It's a multi-level group, of course, so the people who are comfortable with standards and know how to take apart a standard and apply it and stuff were like, alrighty, just let's talk about the coaching because we don't know what we're doing with that. So they'll have a better sense in, and they also will have received, I guess, the templates for the curriculum alignment. I'm going to go there, though.
You need to check with John, though, and find out when we'll go ahead and release those alignment documents.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you said Anson sent those out to everybody, the examples of a syllabus?
He sent that email that I forwarded to you that had the examples that he sent was to the directors for feedback.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where.
Okay, so the teachers haven't necessarily seen that either.
That's correct.
Okay. And when we're waiting, something more is going to happen with them before we use them.
Yeah, I think
get feedback.
I think we'll need some guidance from John on that.
Okay.
And before I forget, just an idea. So I want to back up for just 1 second to the September 22nd, 2017 post-webinar. I think it may be something that we want to do on the coaches webinar and the directors webinar, and that is kind of to show them very quickly the new layout of the folders, where to start finding things, and where to start putting things. So it's not this jumbo bumbo mess that's everything where it is now. And I thought that was why it was such a great idea, Beth, that you had to create folders. So do we want to spend just whatever showing them the folders, or no?
I think great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We have the power, don't we, to move posts?
That's a good question. I was kind of playing with it when I set up the folders on Friday, and from what I can tell, we don't have the power to move them, but we can download something and repost them basically in 2 places. If we could download it and delete it and put it in the right place, but we can't just simply move it.
Yeah.
So it'd be a good idea to kind of take some things and at least move them over there, and then. But I hate to delete comments and everything. So we can delete what they've. We we can repost what people have said and leave it in its original spot.
But it's a good idea.
Okay. And that's move some, I'll actually almost, depending on how much time I have later today or tomorrow, I may actually kind of go through and see, but I didn't want to do it without your guys' permission because I thought maybe I can move some of the stuff that are like lesson plans, but maybe Marion, I don't know who would want to do that. Or,
I'm in there and
mhm.
to see what you did. Okay, so yes, look at that. We have all these folders. Cool. Yeah, I know that's kind of a dilemma, isn't it? Lessons and materials.
Yeah, I wish you get Cornerstone to be more like Google and just be able to move from folder to folder. That would be really nice. I don't know why they don't have that feature. I don't know how hard it would be, but gosh, it would make it so much easier.
Yeah, I kind of think we should just leave the discussions that are where they are.
Yeah.
And we'll just start posting stuff in these folders.
Okay.
People are used to looking for things where they are, and a lot of people probably just go main, where you see what's the newest thing, and you don't know what folder it's in, really.
Yeah, that's the point.
So I think it's okay to just leave them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And no, Anne Marie, we might discover Cornerstone can do something we didn't know it can do.
That's true. That's
Kind of
true.
been the last 2 years have been.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Well, I like that thinking. So.
Oh, there's
okay.
Marcella.
Hi.
Well, thanks, folders created.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it looks great. That'll good.
Independent of you guys, we did make Anne and I made the call to name them lesson plans and materials. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm just in our assignments.
Right.
That's it, because that most of my stuff will be in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Responding to people that are posting their materials. Yeah, I think that's good.
All right. So you're going to think a little bit more about what you want to cover in the pre-webinar?
Yes, I need to change that based on what we just changed. We just changed the webinar in September to focus on the lesson plan template because I think we're going to need to get that out there as people are doing lesson plans. So, can't scroll. I'll scroll on mine.
Oh, because now you don't have the power. You have
Oh.
to get the ball. Take the ball.
Here, I'll give you the ball back.
Okay.
We're playing webinar football.
Marcella.
Oh, goodness, I don't need it.
I don't want the power.
One of those M's.
Okay, you go, Mary.
So, but how? Oh, but I have to share my screen.
No, at the top of the document, you'll see an 01 and a little arrow.
Oh,
Take you to the next page.
Okay. Okay, I need a description for this one. Do you need me to write something about September webinar? Can you? I'll just send you a little description.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't be real detailed. Just
a couple of sentences.
Yep. That would be perfect.
Okay, I'm just making a note. Oh, so I should be able to do that for this one too. October webinar. Okay. And sexual training see if I can. I'm going to make them myself. Did it do something to you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. So just warm up activity, and then getting with backwards design and looking at a scenario before we actually do it ourselves is like looking at what somebody else did and what it means. So it's form a picture of it. So that's activity, and then they will in the lesson plan form a few times by now, so we'll just come back to that and create a lesson plan together based on a standard. And not using their materials. I am going to ask them in the October webinar to bring one of the books they use to the training, and talk a little bit about how we're going to start with the standard, not with the book. And we're not going to do that in the morning. We're going to do that in the afternoon. It's just about the basics of lesson planning and backwards design and creating lesson plans. And the afternoon is really about starting with the standard and then looking at the material. And so I think you guys mentioned, or maybe Marcella, it was you, mentioned something that we can use. I don't know if there's an issue with, vendors and actual materials. Do you think we can get like a lot of people use, or do you think we have to use something where we have author's permission, or what do you think about that?
It's kind of a slippery slope because we have to be real careful that we're not materials from just one vendor, so that it appear that the state was supporting a particular vendor over another.
Yeah.
One thing I will throw out here, and they're free. It's and it's a curriculum that I think almost everybody will want access, and it's from educators, and it's called readworks.org. And it's a feature on the Tech and Tells, and they're graded reading passages. Now, it won't handle our math issue, but it's used for ELL, ESL learners, as well as ABE and GED, and they're graded level materials from pre-K all the way to 11th, 12th grade, and have different subjects and different skills, so cause and effect, and they are aligned to the Common Core standards. But it would be a resource that we could use, teach a standard. It would take some work on the trainers, though, or whoever's going to do this. But they're wonderful. It's really a resource that everyone should be using for content standards.
Part of my question is, what are we using it for?
Well, here's what I'm thinking is and this is going to be a problem with the vendors too, is we want to look at something that doesn't exactly match the standard, so that you see that, like, okay, it does this and this, but it doesn't really do this, so I'm going to have to supplement this with, so I have to supplement this with something from ReadWorks, or something like that. That's my thought, like,
if we have them bring the materials, right, then
yes,
it's not us endorsing a particular.
We have to do a demo of something. They have to see it before do, and then they do. So the concern is we're going to have to demo on something, and and it's going to be one something, because I don't think we're going to do 3 different demos. So it's going to be one content area, and ELA is an easy one. It's an easy one too, but it doesn't really generalizes to ESL, I think, better than ESL goes the other way. I don't know if you agree.
I mean, if you did that, then you could use use read. And Marcella, you trying to say something, and you sound very far away. I wanted you
Oh,
to.
Marcella.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is this any better? If not, I can call in.
Yeah,
I
I can hear.
had thought was perhaps Sam and Pat. Is that it's ESL? It's a program that I had an evaluation of a while ago. And so if it's something that nobody is using, a more neutral resource that could be, I don't know,
What's it?
I think it's called Sam Pat.
Yeah, I heard of it.
I've never heard of that.
So nobody's using it. Another thing we could use US Learns, which a lot of ESL programs use for distance learning because it's also free and public domain, but it's going to be hard to show what it does and doesn't do. I can do screenshots though. Might be an ability.
Anne Marie, you're sending to the chat privately instead of to the group.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay. USA Learns might work, and it's also on approved distance learning curriculum.
Yeah.
So one that some of them will be familiar with. I think that if whatever we pick, it should be something that is free rather than a for-profit thing.
Okay. Well, USA Learns might be good because I don't add critiquing it either. You know what I mean? No one's going to get upset. So maybe we'll go with that.
Okay.
Since isn't it still housed at SCOE?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Actually adding a new course to it. They're adding a citizenship course. So growing.
Melinda is, right? Melinda.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Melinda's working on it. So yeah, she's the only one that'll be upset if I critique it. But that's like one person out of a million. So
And again, we'll probably want to run this by John just to make sure that from the state level that's fine with them.
Okay.
And if you need more than one, you know, you may want to just look at News LA because many teachers are familiar with News LA.
Yes.
LA. Yeah.
Well, you guys
Yeah,
don't say that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we do, and I
Okay.
just don't. I need to
Okay.
remember to do that. Yeah.
So between those two, I've used that for demos before, and that's basically free if you don't get the pro. So yeah, between those two, we're fine. So we'll use one of those. We'll start with the standard. We'll look at the lesson. We'll say it does this, but it doesn't do that. And here's how we're going to supplement it. And then they're going to get into groups based on their program area, their content area, and choose a book to look at, because each one of them will have a book, hopefully. Do you think we have to have, like, some backup books?
Just wondering that.
Yeah, it's a good question. And one of the other trainings that we have, that Anne kind of took the lead on getting organized, is one on contextualized instruction, specifically for programs that are running IETs. And a big chunk of that, the whole afternoon basically was lesson planning around the actual curriculum that you have in your IET and getting hold of the technical methods that they're using. So it's not unheard of for us to ask them to bring that kind of thing with them. Now, we have a physical library, TCAL. I think I can probably run through there and grab a bunch of sample stuff that we can have. So I can put together a box of curriculum that we could bring in. So
somebody's coming from there to each one of these 6.
We will have at least one staff member at every single regional.
But they start from there to bring the books, right? Or we could ship them, I guess.
Yeah, I can ship them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And if we want to throw some read works, we can at least look at some and see if we want to throw some of those in there for samples.
Yes, I will definitely look at that. Marcia and I will look at that.
Mhm.
So good. We have 4 choices: ReadWorks, Sam & Pat, USA Learns, and Newsela. That's great. And have some backup books.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good.
I can do
Okay, so the afternoon is looking at books and starting with the standard, not the book, and we'll see how far we get with that. And then some planning time, like what's your next thing? What do you have to work on next? And then there's an assignment for the next webinar is to create a lesson plan that you're going to with your teachers that you're mentoring, and to post it. Oh God, how to scroll? Yeah, and then the reflection activity.
I'll go back to the previous page for a second. So we do have some time here, it looks like, to look at the gap analysis template.
Yes,
Okay.
we do, but it's 15 minutes. Well, they have 15 minutes, we'll have 10 minutes to about it. What do you think about that?
I'm wondering if we might need a little more time on that.
I didn't know really whether the people are the people that are going to be doing it. If they are, then we should spend a lot more time on it. If they aren't, then they don't really have to. You know, it's a program level overview of things.
Right.
And like maybe a third of those people are program managers. We'll take guidance on that.
I wonder if that shouldn't be thinking. Got to get my brain out of hurricane mode and into thinking again.
I know.
Is that a survey question we should ask on the October 20th pre-webinar?
Good idea. That's a good idea.
I
But
agree.
by October 20th, it's going to be hard
A
to.
little late to change.
It's going to be hard to check because I'm meeting with the trainers around that time too, to have them change gears after that. Although this is, of us will be there at each one of them, so I guess we could do that. Well, really, what we're looking, I mean, we're not going to get rid of any of the part, probably.
Right. Right.
We're just looking at this, making up the time between o'clock and 2:35, and then instead of having planning time for coaching, we'll just use all that we'd use from 3 to 3:45 for the gap analysis.
Well, let's do this. I will get with John and find out kind of what his plan is for releasing his
Right.
draft gap analysis documents. And I think what might help lead us is what are his instructions going to be
Okay.
when he releases that to the field. And then it may be that the question is asked, depending on when he's releasing this, on the September 22nd webinar.
Okay.
Good point.
He was kind of saying that this is a task for administrators.
But I guarantee you the administrators are going to hand it to the coaches and say, do this.
Okay.
I'm pretty
Or at least set up times for them to work on it together. They're going to need to know. You're right. They're going to need to know.
Okay. Well, if they need to know, then we're going to put more time in here for that. And well, actually, so it'd be September, or it might be October. It would be a good topic for October webinar.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Texas trainers too, because they won't know anything about this either.
I had a question. I was just curious about something about the trainers. Are trainers being contacted directly with questions, or know how much conversations are going on between, because some of the trainers are very close to those people in the field. We probably don't know, do we?
I don't know that. As far as I know, everything's going through the COP.
Okay.
They haven't been on there. I don't know if they're even have it actually. But there was one thing that was on my list to ask you about, and I probably never did it. As far as I know, though, nothing, though, Anne Marie.
Wondering if maybe that's Beth. What do you think that just encouraging them that if they get a question or if they get an email to stimulate conversation in the community of practice, to post it in the community of practice and share? I don't know. I'm going to do that, but
I guess part of that goes to what they envision their role being.
Yeah, we didn't really contract with them. I said initially, like a coaching role, everybody was going to be assigned to a coach, and they were going to be the coaches, but we took that in our best and final offer.
Right.
It's our offer, so it's not, so they weren't, their contract doesn't have anything about that.
Yeah, be careful that we don't step outside of what we
Gotcha.
contracted to do.
okay. Well then, okay, that would be okay. Move on.
But you know what, Emily, I would like them to have, I don't know how Deb did that for us, but I want them to be able to go on there and look on there and,
I can check on that as soon as we're done.
Okay.
I'll make sure that they're attached to the community and that they have accounts. I think I may have already checked that, but I've got a note right here, and I'll do that
Okay,
this
thank
afternoon.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and then once you let me know about that, I'll email them and just tell them. I think it's really likely that people are communicating with them unless it's just their friends asking them questions, but
Okay.
I'll just encourage them to.
But yeah, as I've been getting random questions or comments from folks, why, that's great. Why don't you post that in the community of practice?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
So
awesome. Okay, good.
try and push people there.
That's awesome.
Pending what John says, we will figure out where the kids should go and how much time to spend on it. That was a good. And anything on this page?
Well, in a general way, I have a question about can we tie, and I'm just thinking loud here, okay? Can we tie the explicit instruction idea of I do, you do, we do to the actual coaching?
Oh.
What, meaning they demo it? The strategy? I know. That would be really hard because of paying Reese time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some way to weave the coaching in a little more, but I don't know. Let me think on it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm wondering if teachers, and I don't know, to piggyback off of that, Beth, is coaching, and I don't know how I would do it in the training, is that is there an opportunity for the coach, because we have to realize any of these teachers are part-time. They've never really seen a good lesson. They're being asked to do it. The coaches are asking them to do it. Maybe they, as part of the coaching model, the coaches go into the classroom and actually do the I do.
Mm-hmm.
They can see actually the lesson, and the teacher sits down with the students and does it as the coach does it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how realistic that is with all the teachers. Or maybe she brings all the teachers together as professional development and does the lesson as I do, we do, you do.
Just with the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What do you have about that idea?
Sure.
And I'm wondering how they're going to do it anyway. I just remember Christy Heyman's comment that the first teachers they were going to cue in on with Region 6 were the ones that were in danger because of performance. They're going to go and they're going to work with those teachers. So I'm wondering if that's how do you give a new teacher, how do you do this without literally showing them? I know that when I worked with the instructional coach at K through 12, she actually came in and taught one of the classes with the sixth graders, and I watched and I sat there with the teachers, with the students.
Mhm. That's the deal.
Mhm. So, I don't know.
Well, you can talk that. And, you know, as we're doing it, and like, feasible is this for you? And that, you know, that's the ideal, especially with newer teachers or less experienced teachers or teachers that you need help. I think she was the only one that was Tate's approach, though. Everyone else was starting with their more lead, you know, teachers and
Yeah.
True.
Actually quite surprised by that. I thought, I'm not sure that's the best strategy, but
yeah. And I think she might have concluded that after the discussion. I don't know.
But that's also very K through 12, because in K through 12, it is tied to performance. It's tied to whether, I mean, there's some real strong severity there. Ugh. It's on back to next year.
Yeah.
this discussion has led me to another thought. As thinking about those folders that we've created in the community of practice, and maybe we need one for coaching strategies.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And maybe that's part of what happens between now and the November is that we start identifying, and I think Glenda can probably help with that, some strategies that we might share in the community to get them thinking more intentionally about coaching. The thought. Because I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, my thought is I wonder if we can do that in the webinar assignments folder. That can be, assignments are related to coaching, so I think maybe it would be good to keep all that together.
Okay.
I know that Glenda has referred a lot to the night, and I can't his name. Jim Knight. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there aren't some suggestions and strategies she'll help us with this, that we can pull from there for the model of for the coaching to put in that folder.
What she shared with us is kind of the research base. These instructors are not going to go read a 200-page document that Jim wrote. What I'm thinking are pulling smart snippets.
That's true too.
We can have some more conversation about that.
It sounds like from what I'm hearing that they're already starting the content standards training with the teachers. We've heard that almost, the next weekend they pulled the teachers out. So I think off of that conversation, okay, you've trained the teachers, you've shared with them, but now I think Beth, you're right, getting them to really be intentional about the actual coaching and and how are you going to actually work with them? It's one thing to do professional staff development training. It's another thing to be actually going into the classrooms and being intentional and modeling and being and giving feedback. And that takes, and we've talked about how that takes time, or the teachers get offensive. I mean.
They might be offensive.
Yeah. You just can't get away from the football analogy. Yeah. So I think you're right, but how do we get them to think about literally this is our plan for the I'm just very afraid that you're Beth, that this is going to turn into just, okay, here are the content standards, this is what you do, now go do it. And not going back to the coaching piece.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Throw too much at them either. There's a balance here.
Yeah.
Webinar could be an introduction to the lesson plan and then coach strategies. And the assignment could be these, back for October 20th. And the October webinar could be more about the lesson planning and using the gap analysis. I don't just have all these balls in the air. I'm not sure where they're going to all land. But I like the idea of doing more with the coaching strategies.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that we've made it very intentional that we have to roll out the content standards. How are you going to do that? Number two, your gap analysis. And then I think we need to intentionally put that number 3. Remember, you instructional coaches. So not only do you have to roll based, out and start planning your lesson plans, but part of this 3 or whatever is how you're going to be intentionally working with yours more on a group or a one-on-one basis.
For teachers.
Yeah, support. Yeah, sorry. Support, exactly.
So we really focused in the previous training on the listening piece, initiating, choosing the teachers, forming the relationship, and listening. So we could get some feedback on that, like were you able to do that? And you don't do that in the back to school staff meeting with 30 teachers. That's more of a, so we just reflect on that and then build from there some other.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. Exactly.
I mean, somebody posted they only have 3 teachers in their program. So meeting with the other 2 teachers, I mean, they're in a coaching model, kind of, no matter what. So, but then the people in the bigger programs are very different for them.
Yeah. Well, it might make sense to reflect on the listening on the webinar on September 22nd. That might make sense since that's the concept that we introduced to them in August face-to-face meeting.
So I'm going to add a row right here. Reflect on listening activity. I was just thinking stuff on dealing with different kinds of difficult people, but I don't know if we need to go there yet. We're going to have time, as they work through this and they're trying to get through their gap analysis and everything, and then we have the January 31st, and then those then we have a post-webinar and then 3 more wrap-up webinars through May with coaches. And the impression was that was where really the focus would be on the coaching, but I like doing more of it up front because I think it doesn't maybe doing this for half a year and then find out what the coaching strategies are. So this is what we have for September right now. Reflect on the listening activity in the training. Okay, so that includes actually reflect on the listening activity and add more coaching strategies. So that's what's right there. Show new folders in the CP and talk about what goes where. Another maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then present the lesson plan template. So they don't have anything about the gap analysis. So if we're going to have the gap analysis in there, just that if John thinks it's going to be out by then.
Okay. In meetings just back to all day today.
Okay,
But
so it won't be fast. That's fine. That's fine. I got plenty to do. Okay. So what else?
okay, the next page.
Yep.
Okay, there's our reflection.
Oh, I don't know about this, but it was just to have a few different questions in a Vista walking around activity, and it's only going to be 25 people. Hooray! It's not going to be 120, so it'll be a little easier.
Yeah, that's true. It will have to be a little flexible. If we end up with 50 in Houston, we may have to have 2 sets of trainers or
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
So where are we with the registration process? Do we know?
Well, Stella, who's our office manager, is working on getting a location set.
Yeah.
As soon as that's, and I think it was, she thought she'd have it at the end of last week, and then she took Thursday and Friday off. So we'll get with her. The university is actually technically closed today and tomorrow. So we won't have staff in the office until Wednesday.
Okay.
I think once we have locations absolutely set, I'll need a description. Again, have to be long, 2 or 3 sentences.
Okay.
That will be of our internal process to get the registration up in the portal.
Okay.
I have an idea. Let me just throw this out here before I forget. Okay.
You go, girl.
I'm looking at this carousel questions that you have up. Question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. And if I'm understanding this right, during the September 22nd, 2017, the webinar with the coaches, we're going to kind of start conversation with coaching, right? The lean a little bit. Why couldn't we do some type of a carousel web activity with questions about coaching going into the regional trainings?
You could.
And I don't know if that throws a wrench into it.
No, these questions can be anything. I wasn't really thrilled with the questions. I don't think Melissa was either, if I remember her comments. So that's why I said we were going to tweak it. So let's think about that right now. Yes, Ella. I remember that. So I take you to get here today is like totally irrelevant. So what are you thinking, Anne Marie?
I'm thinking, you maybe even could call it a coaching carousel or something. And question 1, please reflect on, how your coaching. Oh boy, you're putting me on the spot here. I just had the idea. The eagle came in, it just didn't land. The eagle came in, the talons are out, but she didn't think it through.
We're just brainstorming right now. I just need to put something here so I can remember what to think about later.
So a couple questions on where they are with the process of the intentional coaching with the teachers. You've trained your teachers, but what is your thought process in actually intentionally observing, discussing whatever the word Beth used. How are you creating those intentional relationships with your teachers as a coach? And what are your challenges that you're facing? What are some good models that you're thinking about using? Something like that.
Well, it might be that we even...
Number 4. Yeah, question 4.
What's question 4?
How teachers... can you see how the teachers you're coaching feel about lesson planning?
Yeah.
Do you like question 3? How do you feel? How do you do your lesson planning? Oh, it's not how you feel. Okay, so
But going to do something like that that's a focus on coaching. Maybe what we need to be asking about are some of those skills that those teachers need to be using to be coaching. So about what makes a good coach, and we talked about listening skills and our face-to-face. So what are some of the other skills that we would be asking our coaches about, or highlighting it, that these are skills that you need to be an effective coach.
That's wonderful. See, 360-degree perspective of the owl.
Okay, you guys have to share that thing with me sometime so I know what you're talking about when you turn into owls.
We will send it to you. We'll
It's
send a dope to you.
It's a communication style thing, but
And I'm wondering, and we could take those comments and post them, whatever comment we get in this carousel, we can those and put them in the folder in the community of practice.
Mm. Okay. That's looking much better. Okay, the last question about lesson planning, because we do want to segue into lesson planning. So I don't have to change here. Okay, good. Okay. Move.
okay. Is that our?
Well, it's just the webinar in December. I don't know if to talk about that now because probably everything's going to change by then, based on how things are going.
We appreciate your flexibility.
Yep.
Well, that's just how it works, isn't it? Things develop.
Just to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So, how's it going with your coaching? Was what we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Presented lesson plan. So, it's going to depend. I was going to take one of the lesson plans because they're going to post lesson plans. I was going to take one and either use it, or if we were going to critique it, maybe disguise it. So we weren't critiquing a person,
Right.
like really focus on a lesson plan. But the flexibility part is if they're doing the gap analysis then and there's issues with it, maybe we'll on that. So
Okay.
But this is what it looks like right now. So, any thoughts about this one?
Write a note here. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's a
One,
long way away.
yeah. One question I had, thinking about the list of things that we need for the face-to-face in November. Do you think we need an internet connection?
I do not think so as of right now.
Okay.
The only reason we would need it is to watch a video, and I think if we do that, I have a plan for that right now, or time in there. So I don't think so. And so if we need to do, I'm just going to give it to we'll just have it on a flash drive.
Okay.
So yeah. So no.
Okay.
All right, so anytime you go somewhere, do you set up the tables like that with all the little fun stuff and all the sticky notes and pens and everything?
Well, Region 6, who's our subcontractor, they put those kits together. So when Region 6 is there, we do have them. But I borrow them. You always have markers, sticky notes, and pens and stuff, but not really all the tchotchke stuff.
Okay, that's all I really care about. Marker, sticky notes, and pens.
Yep, just have that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And depending on if I come to El Paso, which I think, I don't know where we are with that, Beth, but if I come, Amanda, to help you with El Paso, which I'm still planning to do,
Mm-hmm.
I have all of those little cases,
Yeah.
those little boxes, because
Yeah.
I'm up for the last training I did. Not with the tchotchkes and all that stuff, but just the letters and the pens and
Okay.
index cards and stuff like that. So I can put them in a suitcase, a small suitcase, and bring them with me too.
Ms. Moya, their PD coordinator, I'm sure can set us up too.
Oh, that's right. She can. Exactly. She'll have all that stuff. Yep.
Okay.
I have a plastic box that never leaves the back of my car.
Oh, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So.
And a sticky notes, which the recycle guys keep trying to take out of my trunk. Like, no, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Do you know how much those things cost?
Yep.
So I have a bunch of to-dos, and the main, for as far as you are concerned, is sending you descriptions of everything.
Yes, would be very helpful.
And Marion, if you could copy me on those descriptions, because I'm going to
Of
be doing
course.
I'm going to be doing the trips for Beth, and that's like priority tomorrow to at least get the September 1 or whatever date that is, right?
September
Yes, the
22nd.
Yep. So that would be awesome. Thank you.
Two of these on your forehead, and
Yes, I know they're going to be before it's over. Oh goodness, I'm going to be talking in my sleep.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, meeting with us. I can't believe you're working when your house is like about
I know.
float away, but
It keeps me, like I told Beth, not to quote a Waylon Jennings song, but I'm going to. I've always been crazy because it's kept me from going insane. So
Yeah.
I feel with all this water right now, I got to
Yeah.
focus on something else, or I'm just going to pace. I'm just going to
Yep.
go nuts.
yeah, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
well,
Glad. I'm just safe and sound.
yeah.
Hope
Well,
it
thank
stays
you.
that
This
way.
was actually a really good distraction. So, it's
Mhm.
okay.
Amen.
Happy to help.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. All right, well, I'm sure
All
we'll
right.
be talking.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Anne Marie.
Okay, you too, Beth. Take
Yeah.
care. I will. Bye.